Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Lounge here on hoopslounge.com. Myself, Phil Boileau, aka Sporting Phil, joined by my man Marc Griffin, aka Montreal Marc. Today, living in the northern bit here in Montreal, we're feeling these frigid temperatures. So we're wanting to take our mindset down south, Los Angeles, where it's sunny and warm, and there's two basketball teams on kind of opposite ways of going about their season. Marc, first of all, we're hearing a lot about Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers this year, obviously dealing with a lot of adversity. Before we dive into Kobe, what's the adversity you think is hitting them the most this year?
Well, I think it's franchise luck. I mean, I heard a stat today that kind of blew my mind. They're 0-4 right now for the first time since the franchise moved from Minneapolis decades and decades and decades ago. I think it was the 1950s or early 60s. So Lakers have always been the king of Tinseltown, and now we're seeing the Clippers just taking over the city. And yeah, Kobe, poor Kobe, he's not got much luck with the roster. Steve Nash, Captain Canada, and now Julius Randle going down for the season. Yeah, the team's kind of falling to pieces.
Absolutely. But we have been seeing a little bit of a resurgence with Kobe Bryant. He's been looking really good. In my eyes, he's been adding a little bit of a passing game. I think he's really putting an emphasis on getting the rest of his teammates involved this year because he realizes he won't be able to do it alone. But as you mentioned, the arsenal that surrounds him may not be of the magnitude he needs, having Jeremy Lin, Carlos Boozer, Jordan Hill. Jordan Hill's really been stepping up actually the last couple of games, having 23 points apiece. But this team, let's face it, is on an uphill battle to make the playoffs. So there's been a lot of speculation in the media of late. What should the Lakers do? Should they stand pat, play out Kobe's career, hopefully try to get someone in the next offseason, maybe a Reggie Jackson or such? Or do you move Kobe Bryant, with his blessing, of course, to a market where he can contend right away for a championship, and on the flip side, Lakers can start to rebuild? What side of that argument would you be on, Marc?
Well, I'm on Kobe's side. Whatever the man wants, I think he's got just as much pull as anyone in that organization. He's one of the, I think, 5 guys in the league with a no-trade clause. So if he says, I want to go anywhere, I mean, remember he went through this about 5 or 7 or 8 years ago, wanting to go to the Clippers for a little while. I doubt he'll end up there. But, there's a bit of, I guess, buzz in the air, people talking about the Knickerbockers, him going back and play for Phil Jackson again, back in the triangle. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I mean, there's guys that have to step up. Obviously, Robert Sacre is, another Canadian, has got to step up. Ed Davis, former Toronto Raptors, playing pretty decent ball for the Lakers, but Jeremy Lin's not bad. But I mean, that's not enough pieces for them to make the playoffs. Kobe knows this. He's going out scoring 30, 25 a game on 36-year-old legs, and coming back from the Achilles injury. He's playing great, but he's not going to be able to sustain that, not with the help from enough teammates. So, questions going to be a lot of question marks with the Mamba, and I have a feeling he might talk about being traded this year.
I think you're right. I think he definitely has that yearning to stay with the franchise that started his whole career. As you know, in today's NBA, Tim Duncan is one of the handful of people who is able to do this. Mm-hmm. But let's face it, he's going to want a championship. He's too much of a competitor to put up with this for the next 2 years, and unless the Los Angeles Lakers and formulate a plan of action to bring in enough talent to facilitate this, I think it was interesting. Just as a whim, we had mentioned that possible Knicks trade a few months back in another episode we did. But I think honestly that's a win-win. It puts Kobe in the situation where with Derek Fisher, with Phil Jackson, triangle, can maybe facilitate that a little more. And let's be honest, the Knicks probably aren't winning anything this year. So no. This gives them them the ability to maybe make something happen. And then on the reverse side, it lets the Los Angeles Lakers take back some expiring contract, maybe some nice young pieces, Shumpert, Tim Hardaway Jr., whatever you say there. Now, it's interesting segue. You mentioned how Kobe Bryant, 2006, I think it was, almost went to the Clippers. Now, the Clippers are the belle of the ball in Tinseltown, on quite the opposite trajectory right there. For years, we would laugh at the Clippers and scoff at any chance of them being a successful franchise, as they routinely had one of the worst records in the league. But now it's quite the opposite. The Clippers are looking playoff bound, and in a lot of mock scenarios, we've seen many NBA writers predict them to not only go far in the playoffs, but I've actually seen on a few of them having championship possibilities, like not just aspirations. Every good team does. When we're talking about the Clippers, we talk about these big names all the time. I know San Antonio, OKC was having their struggles, Cleveland, Chicago. But the Clippers, it's kind of a feel-good story this year. Do you think they possibly have the pieces it takes to contend, or do you think this team is still a few building blocks away?
Well, I mean, the way Blake Griffin has been playing the early part of the season and towards the tail end of last season, he just continues to step up his game. And he's showing like a jumper. He's hitting threes now. He's just adding more dimensions to his game. I've been really impressed by him early on. And now with OKC, with Westbrook and Kevin Durant going down, who knows how long those two guys will be out. And, they're not going to be contending for the moment, at least. So that's absolutely a window of opportunity for these guys. And don't forget, CP3, the knack against him, I think it's his 10th year in the league. He's never been past, I think, the quarterfinals. So I think they have to keep advancing. Obviously, they've got the chip on their shoulder about being the franchise kind of, I mentioned in our season opener, the Donald Sterling curse now. See if they can move beyond that dark cloud and get further. And obviously the push they have past Los Angeles Lakers the past couple of years, I think this is a momentous opportunity for them. They're going to have to get by the Spurs. They're going to have to get by Dallas, a few other teams. But this is their moment to seize right now. So it's a really interesting moment for LA.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of players with a lot to prove. I think Blake Griffin been passed over for a couple of years for the MVP vote, which is understandable considering the other talents in the league. But I think this is a year where he definitely makes a push. And I think he wants that title from Kevin Love as the best power forward in the league. I think he's going to possibly take it this year. And Chris Paul, as you eloquently said, does have that chip on his shoulder, and he's such a competitor. I think he will want that to happen. And I think they addressed a huge need in the offseason, bringing in Spencer Hawes as the backup power forward center, be able to stretch the court, already paying dividends. Depending on the situation, you can play DeAndre, you can play Spencer Hawes, you can play a multitude of combinations. And I think this will allow Blake Griffin to play a little bit less because they didn't have that legitimate backup big last year. I think this is a very driven team. I think the city is behind them. I think them and Cleveland are the two teams where it's kind of that feel-good cities just rallying around them. I mean, there are many cities with great fans, of course, but this is, it tugs at the heartstrings. So we're looking at a possible change of power there in LA, and considering how young the Los Angeles Clippers are, this could be for the foreseeable future, unless the Lakers, as we mentioned, decide to play their whole hand and do the rebuild. Now, just before we let people go, I just wanted to ask your opinion. So the Lakers in 2 years will no longer have Kobe Bryant's services, assuming he doesn't re-sign for more. We'll see how that happens. In 2-3 years, do you think the Lakers can bridge that gap in terms of contention with their city rivals, the Clippers, or do you think the Clippers have taken over Tinseltown officially?
I think they've taken over officially. And one thing I forgot to mention about Kobe, he's got such a gigantic contract. It's going to be really difficult to move him. But, we'll leave that to the GMs. But you know what? Every franchise waxes and wanes in terms of how great they are. Look at the Celtics and the Knicks, what they've been through kind of the last decade. I think it's finally that time where the Lakers are just going to be kind of down the beaten path for a while. And, the Clippers have been the little brother forever, for the longest time. Decades, really. And so I think the Lakers are just going to kind of have to fall and sink for a while and slowly build themselves up again. They have enough statues. It's time to give a few other teams a chance at the titles. So, yeah, I think Kobe will somehow leave this organization soon. LA is just going to have to kind of pick themselves up again. It's going to take a while. It may take 5-7 years.
I agree, and I think this is the year. I'm not sold that Kobe Bryant finishes the season in a Laker uniform.
And who knows? It could be injuries again. You never know with Kobe.
It could be that. Hopefully not. I mean, we've already seen one Laker kind of his career tail off, Steve Nash, because of injury, and that's never a way that you want to see one of the great players ever stepping away from the game. So we hope you guys enjoyed this wrap-up. LA, the Battle of LA. Let us know who you think the real contender is going forward. Will the Lakers regain their form, or will the Clippers take over? And will Lob City be forevermore synonymous with the state, with Los Angeles? Anyways, you can catch us anytime, hoopslounge.com. Please feel free to check out the new website. It's in the beta version, so please leave comments on any of the social media networks for anything you want to see or any criticisms or comments on it, because we want to deliver this for you guys, the fans, because, as always, this is one conversation, love of basketball, brought from fans to fans. So on behalf of Mark, myself, and the rest of the Hoops Lounge crew, thank you for joining this week, and we'll catch you guys next time in the lounge.
See ya.